When you do something well, it speaks for itself. It's what makes a difference in life is the people you made a difference in their lives. And love is the most powerful word in the English language. That's the way I feel.
Pearl has put Bishopville on the map.
I grew up in Clinton, North Carolina. I was there all my life, really, and I was one of those kids that grew up on, my father was a sharecropper, so we never really had that much, but I came from a very strong family, you know. And from an early age, my role model was my father. You know, he had third grade education, but he was a hard-working person. And then I was the first Afro-American from my neighborhood to go to college. I was drafted into the military, so I spent 3 years in the military, went back to school. But then I think the military was really good because it gave me a chance to kind of grow up. It changed the whole environment in which I grew up in, I grew up around. A person is the total of his experiences, and at some point it comes out. And so that's really what happened with me in my case. I was always creative, and it was one of those things I always put off because I felt, well, there was other things important, and I had to make a living for my family. But it was always in the back of my mind, you know. Once I discovered, once I bought this piece of property and built the house, and I kind of got into gardening, and I figured then that was a way to show my creative, and really get to the point where I really can express myself. And so I got into the garden, and I knew when I hit it. So I kept it simple. I would say, I'm trying to get yard of the month. And I figured once I get that, then I'd move on to something else. And so finally, about 1990, I really had succeeded to the point that I had created my own style and technique, only because they would not come outside the city limits to give me yard of the month. So I went to this nursery to buy a plant that was cut into 2 tiers. He found out that I knew nothing about gardening, and he says, I really don't want to sell it to you. He said, because people buy these plants and they think they grow like that. He said, but I'll show you how to do it. So he took me out and gave me a 3-minute lesson how to cut the 2 balls of the 2 pom-poms. And I came home, and it took me 2 years to kind of develop my own style and technique from that. And today, when I look at it, my formal training would be a 2-minute lesson from a nursery because he wouldn't sell me the plant. And a 2-hour art appreciation course in college, which I couldn't figure out why in the world was I in that course. And today I become known for the lack of knowledge. And because if I'd have had a horticulture background, I would have never done this because I was breaking too many rules, so I didn't know that I was breaking the rules. And so when people finally made me aware that this shouldn't happen, you shouldn't do this, then I realized for one time in my life, ignorance paid off.
Pearl's contribution to the world of art, and I've always seen him as an artist and never as a plant cutter, has always been, like any very gifted artist, his ability to have an idea and see it through. And he's very persistent, and he doesn't need to know what's possible. He learns what's possible through a process of experimentation. And because he doesn't have these preconceived notions of limitations, he's able to push things much, much farther than many other topiary artists who are sort of going by the book. It's time for him to write the book, I think.
You know, the fact that he was never trained and he's done all this, it's just unbelievable. It lets people know that you can do anything you want to do if you set your mind to it.
People that consider me a gardener was not the people that consider me an artist. So when you put them together, I'm always doing something. Either I'm speaking as a gardener at flower shows, I'm speaking at universities as an artist. And I know absolutely nothing about either one of them. I think that's what can happen when you work at something with a passion and you use what you have to work with, because my gift is a creative person. But the problem sometimes with creative people is that we can't afford our talent. And I was fortunate enough that when I got to the point where I really needed help to accomplish my goal, it was at the point people were getting to donate money for, to come to tour it, and they made me put up a donation box. And
I was amazed, pleasantly surprised. I knew it was going to be a neat experience, but not this neat. I think the thing that clinched it for me was Mr. Pearl. In addition to what he's done with the plants and with fountains and with creative scraps, as he calls it, of junk, he is just such a neat guy to listen to, and he's so willing to share.
It takes so much work and so much dedication to come up with this idea and to keep up these properties. It is really incredible. Everyone should see this.
Well, it's almost like partially Dr. Seuss when you first walk up, and then the more you look, the more you see. So it's very imaginative, very creative. As he says, he changes it. So, it's just hard to describe. You have to be here. You have to see it.
He spends so much time when he's here at the garden talking to visitors that everybody feels a personal connection to Pearl because of that. He's very enthusiastic. I don't care how tired he is or how many people he's talked to all day long. He has that enthusiasm.
There are days I'll have at least a couple hundred people. There's always people here. People come in and then they'll hear about it and they just come in and walk through the garden. If you ever want to visit the garden and you go downtown and you stop at some of the service stations or whatever and ask direction, you don't want to ask, where's that topiary garden in Bishopville? You ask, where does the guy live that cut up bushes? And they give you the direction. If you say, where does the topiary guy live, they don't even know what you're talking about. Everybody call me the man that cut up bushes.
He is a very genuine, sincere type person. He identifies with people so well, and he cares so much about people.
We were really amazed to find that he was willing to give us a personal tour and gave us a little bit of background about his start and about the garden and the cornfield where it all began. And
I learned about some of the work he's done with all of his pots and metal things in his sculpture, ornaments and things like that. I had no idea that was here, so that was a big treat for me to get to see that.
It's unbelievable how many have visited here from so many countries.
To be around him and just listen to him talk. In fact, we hated for it to be over because he is so delightful.
Well, one of the places at the Waffle House, and they kept on after me, well, we'd love for you to do this in front of the Waffle House and this and that.
He gets one up egg, a dot of grits, and bacon.
Now, at that time, I really didn't have the time.
Pearl comes into the Waffle House every day because of his topiary out front, and because he just loves the people of the town, the people that work here. He loves to be out and about in the community, and people are always coming up and taking pictures of the topiary out front, and we give them directions to his house, and they usually eat here and then go to his topiary garden.
So I went in, I did that was about 7 or 8 years ago. So every morning we had breakfast there. Number one, I always have looked at what I have accomplished from an average man point of view, from a person that took something, basically took nothing and made something out of it, right? So to me, that's quite an accomplishment. The other thing was that now I have a story to tell to people that feel they have no place to go because they are not gifted academically. We're so geared towards being academically gifted, tested, until we convince so many students they cannot achieve anything in life because they did not make all A's and B's. And so my point is now, because what I have accomplished, just from using what I have, that when I talk to students is do your best academically, because you're going to need it. But at some point, do what you do well, because you're going to need the academics to deliver it. Once you get that education, then you use it with what you do well. And usually, if you work at it with a passion, you're going to be successful. That's my story. That's why I do what I do.
Pearl has a big heart. He has always felt a need, I think because of his background, to help people that maybe don't get help normally. For instance, he likes to help students that are not the A students. He likes to help what he calls the C students.
I was one of those kids that wasn't supposed to make it. So it's not so much about the students that's A and B students, gifted academically. It's those students that's on the borderline. You could hurt or help them quickly. One of my greatest accomplishments was to be able to do a presentation at Harvard, and academically I couldn't even get on campus. I mean, that was a thrill to me. Who in the world, as a guidance counselor, is going to tell you, you know, why don't you go into gardening and become a topiary? I mean, at 18, that sounds crazy. And it even sounded crazy even after I was 30, you know, I'm trying to get a job, you know. But then at 40 years old, I decided I want to use my talent, my God-given talent. So I said to students, don't ever give up on your gift or what you do well, because at some point you can use it. Coker College is really where it all began, because see, Jean Grosser, she was the first one to recognize what I do as art. Matter of fact, I thought she kind of lost it, but anyway, because she would bring her class out and to visit and to do drawings and do sketches.
I've known Pearl for about 20 years, and we met at his garden in Bishopville, and as soon as I saw his sculptures, his living sculptures, I immediately knew that I wanted to take students there to see his work. And so every fall I took my freshman basic design class to see his artwork, and we drew there and did a whole project on shape at his place.
And when they had a new president, and he bought into the idea that I would go over as an artist in residence.
In 2002, we had an extraordinary opportunity to invite Pearl here to Coker College to be an artist in residence and actually work with students on projects. And the garden that surrounds us is one of those projects that Pearl has been involved with.
And we created this garden in there, and the students would, we'd create the design in the classroom, and then we would take them out. And I think the real thing was to figure out how to do what you did in the ground or to a plant. And I think the most beautiful piece I've done that we did together is a mosaic piece. It stands tall. And I think it would be more interesting to see how we actually cast that than what the piece itself. Matter of fact, I couldn't even believe myself.
The piece de resistance, the final project, was a sculptural piece designed by students and based on Pearl's plants and then executed by students. So it's a very strange looking piece of sculpture that Pearl helped us build. We could have never built it without him. He had to figure out a way to cast cement around rebar. It was quite an adventure. And then the students really worked hard at designing the mosaic finish for that and completing it. And that's one of the high points of the garden as well. So. But it's really truly a collaboration. But when Pearl comes, I leave, because he is a master at inspiring students, and I just get in the way when he's working. And often he tells me, just give them all A's, and I sort of roll my eyes and think to myself, well, I'll handle that later, because he really enjoys students, and they get very, very excited about working with him.
When Pearl Fryar speaks, he doesn't speak to you as if you know nothing, but he rather wants you to learn. A lot of people have no idea what topiaries are, so he's like, come to my garden, you know, let me teach you. I'll come. He came here. All the classes here, all the art classes have a hand in this project. So he works with you. He's willing to spend hours. We spent hours working on this. Rain, cold, wind, and he doesn't just give up. Like, there were some times when projects weren't kind of going the way they were supposed to. We ran into problems. He's like, it's fine, we'll work around it. And he's approachable. A lot of people do their thing and they know they're good at it, and that's all they do. They don't know how to reach out to others. But he's approachable and he's really great with teaching. So I think that's like one of the best things, to work with somebody who knows how to get like to other people.
Today, to have an opportunity to talk to today's student that's more technology oriented, and they be coming from the old school, and to be able to show how I was able to make that transition, not totally because I don't quite understand the technology, but then how to take technology and also help make the old school work. But I do feel like we're at that point now where you almost have to back off and give the young people their due, because this is their day. And when you incorporate too much old school into their thinking, it can also be a hinder too. You see, because you always want kids to progress.
He can tie two little twigs together and see that as something that'll take form and shape over a period of, 8 or 10 years. And I often feel like he sees in students that same kind of raw material, that potential for development, and he allows them to see that in themselves. And it's a wonderfully self-confirming experience for the students. The students also need to understand that things don't happen overnight, and Pearl's way of working is incremental. And the garden you see around you, these are weeny tiny plants when we started in 2002, and Pearl said, just wait, Jean, they're going to meet, they're going to make beautiful arches, and all that is happening. All that he said has come to pass. And I think students themselves realize that the steps we take in life are sometimes incremental and lead to fabulous rewards, but we don't always see them the next day.
He's an inspiration to me.
But I mean, it's that hope. And if I can share that with anyone, especially students, and it can change their lives, or it can even make them stop and think, then I love it, I enjoyed it. My wife is really that real inspiration, because we grew up together. We started dating in the 7th grade. I was 13 years old. And we dated 13 years, we got married at 26. So I came in one morning and I said to her, this was after my son was probably pretty close to a year old. And I said, I really can't figure out why you married me. I didn't have any money. I closed my bank account. I think I had $7 in it from upstate New York. And I didn't have a job. And quite naturally, we had dated 13 years, so I expected her to say to me, well, I was in love with you, I couldn't see spending the rest of my life without you. I want to hear it now, because I'm making as much money now as we were making together when we first got married. So I'm sitting there waiting, and finally, she looked at me and she said, I married you because I thought you had potential. For the first time in my life, someone that I cared a lot about thought I had something to offer. I mean, it just hit the right nerve. I went for at least, we've been married about 45 years, and she did not know what that meant to me until about 5 years ago. You know what I mean? And nothing makes me more miserable. You don't need me. You do everything for yourself. And to have someone think that you have more to offer, and that meant more to me at that moment than if she would have said, I love you. For all, she could went through any kind. That moment was I wasn't expecting to hear that, but I needed to hear. And it followed me till today. And I walked through this place and it was built on potential. How many people actually have a chance to tell their story about something that they like, whether it's get a lot of publicity or not? Because the story to that person is important. There are preachers stand behind pulpits every Sunday trying to get that message out. And I just use a different form. And I think what makes mine work is the fact that I'm no denomination. I really feel I have a service. And I really feel I have a devoted audience, you see. But then my message is to make you find what within you that works. It might take 3 years to 5 years, you pretty well can see what you're doing, you know. But then I do have pieces that maybe took about 7 years, 10 years. My main goal in life now is, for the rest of my life, is to make you draw from your strength. And it's not a matter of age. Because in the final analysis, I want to be happy in my final days. And your final days is going to be, if I make a difference, if you walk out today and you can make a difference in any person's life, you're going to feel good about yourself. I never thought that my culture would be so well accepted. That's one of the reasons I get so much attention today, is because my culture is really being accepted. So I'm no longer looking at that person that worked from an outside point of view. It's never been important. But today, everybody's culture is important. I mean, you can go to museum, you're going to see Afro-American art, you're going to see Indian art, you're going to see. So when you bring all that culture together, then that lowers that division that's between people. And one of my goals is to give scholarships to C-students, average students. We lose a lot of those kids that fall to the class, and everybody's not gifted academically. And so that's what the garden is about. My garden is just as big a ministry as any church in the state of South Carolina. I don't have a building. I have a congregation, I would say, every week of somewhere between 300 to 500 people. 5 years old, go give them the camera. They'll tell you how to do it. And if you ever visit this garden, there's a message you're gonna get, you will never forget it. I don't have to see you but one time. So what greater ministry is that? Do you remember Cyclops? Remember the Iliad and the Odyssey? Remember the one-eyed jank? That was a required reading. I hated it so bad. So I decided to look at Cyclops. That's when I went out.
The impact that he has had is unbelievable. If you mention Bishopville or Lee County, people say, oh, that's where Pearl Fryar has his garden.
Take a drill and drill a little hole in here and take a coat hanger and bend it and tape it here and put it straight up. See, this is the coat hanger.
Wow. Wow. It's hard to believe that he can have accomplished what he did with the minimal starts. He talks about starting with plants that weren't supposed to live or tossed out, or $2 starts. His creativity is just mind-boggling to me.
Just know that he's a man of intelligence, he's a man of creativity. He's obviously a hard worker, because he told us up until 4 months ago he did everything by himself, and that is just amazing when you come here, because it's got to be a couple of acres. I don't know that exactly, but in my estimation, and just plants everywhere, and he's done all the work, climbed the ladders, taken risk, bought the plants, put money and time and investment in it. So he's obviously a man of a very high character.
He has become very successful, and it shows that you can come from very meager backgrounds, or and be successful.
That if I want to do something, even at this age, that you can do it. And I love the way he had that positive attitude. And I think that's real important for people, not to be down on themselves, but think, well, I can do something like that, because he has a name all over, not just the United States, but all over the world now of what he's done.
I want to tell the story to more people and bring friends and neighbors and family back to see this. I also want to dig into my garden.
My garden is set up so that when you walk through the garden, you don't walk for so long before you're going to see love, or I love you, or hate hurt. The last thing that you see when you leave my garden, because the idea is to leave this garden with a message, to feel differently than you did when you started. The last thing you see before you get on the bus to leave, I don't know if you followed me for tour, is love, peace, and goodwill. So in a way, I'm better than the preacher from the pulpit because you preach the sermon to yourself. I don't. I just tell you what I have been able to do and inspire in my way of expressing what I feel and how I feel about others and how I want you to feel about others. That's what the garden is about. When you do something well, it speaks for itself. It's what makes a difference in life is the people you made a difference in their lives. And love is the most powerful word in the English language. That's the way I feel.